There's a light in the sky, rising in the air. There's a feeling so strong. It's time to light the fire, like a bright shining light. Love, getting more out of life. Love, sharing time with friends, feeling so strong.
Hello, this is the House of Wellness. I'm Luke Darcy, and it is always fantastic to be alongside the wonderful Joe Stanley. Hello, Joe.
It is so awesome to be with you as well, Darcy. I do love our time together. I'm on a mission to banish stress and worries from my life. Enough already.
Well, I'm with you, Joe. Now, a well-known catchphrase, I think, in the 60s was turn on, tune in, drop out. Now, in 2022, after a fairly trying couple of years, I think we've got to change that. I want to go with turn off, kick back and chill out, Joe.
Yeah, well, we've all been faced with some pretty major stresses over the last couple of years. Number one, of course, being the pandemic. But I think all of us have managed, even outside of the pandemic, there's stresses around, you know, changes in your life, things that you can't control, whether it's financial or emotional, you know, your relationships, parenting. Oh, my God, my daughter's a teenager now. There's a lot of stress involved.
Well, I think, as you said, the lockdown challenges are pretty immense. I must admit, you know, it's a horrible thing to watch the images we're seeing overseas at the moment with what's happening in Ukraine. I find that incredibly distressing. So it's all around us, Joe. We're faced with stress more than perhaps we've ever had before.
Well, the Australian Bureau of Statistics is right now conducting the biggest health study in Australian history to give us a snapshot of the country's physical and mental health. It's found that young people under 34 and women are most likely to experience high levels of psychological distress.
That said, long-term or chronic stress can hit anyone at any age. It affects all aspects of our health and well-being, and if it's left untreated, it can even turn into a life-threatening situation, as 55-year-old Melbourne dad Jerry Panu found out.
Until a year ago, Victorian financial controller Jerry Panu thought he was in pretty good health.
I mean, I don't smoke, not particularly overweight, played a lot of soccer, and generally kept a reasonably healthy kind of lifestyle, I guess.
But there was one part of his lifestyle that wasn't so healthy.
I know I was doing a lot of hours working early and coming home reasonably late, and then just bringing work home in my head really more than anything else. You tend to stress out a lot about things because you care about the company I guess you work for. You know, you don't sleep very well occasionally because you just worry about things. So the work-life balance wasn't particularly great, but I didn't think it was going to manifest itself in the way that it did. I was asleep in bed, 4 o'clock in the morning. I felt a very heavy pressure on my chest, as if my chest was being gripped in a vice and just getting tighter and tighter. I woke my wife up, and she very quickly realised what the signs were because I couldn't really speak. I was in a cold sweat, I was breathing very heavily, couldn't really catch my breath too much, so she knew what was happening. Called the paramedics, and after that, it was a bit of a blur. I don't really know what happened in the ambulance ride on the way to hospital, but I do remember the cardiac surgeon saying to me and looking me in the eyes and saying, "This is serious. There's a risk of mortality here." And that's when I thought, you know, there is something going on here. I'm in trouble.
Jerry experienced what is commonly referred to as the widowmaker, a type of heart attack with a survival rate of just 12%. The cause? A lethal combo of 2 factors, high cholesterol and chronic stress.
The combination of those two is probably what caused my heart attack. I mean, certainly the physical aspect of things, having high cholesterol is not great, but also the mental stress of my work over the past 20, 30 years has culminated into what happened. And if it wasn't for my wife calling the paras when she did, the paras doing what they had to do, and then the cardiac team in the hospital, then, you know, it could be different.
Jerry is far from the only person to end up fighting for their life as a result of work-related stress. Studies have linked factors such as long hours and workplace pressure with a 40% increase in the risk of cardiovascular disease.
It's the silent killer. The key takeaway really is just to look after yourself and to recognise the signs that you are taking things too seriously. If you're not sleeping, if you're bringing work home, if you're short with people, then those are signs that you've got to realise that things are getting a little bit perhaps out of hand. Prior to my heart attack, I was probably doing a lot more in the way of 24-hour connectivity, emails, messages. So I've cut out a lot of that, and I'm far more aware of, my family and wanting to have more of a laugh and just doing things today. I get out and about on my bike a lot just to get out in the fresh air, enjoy the sunshine. That helps me in a couple of ways. It helps me physically, and it helps me just empty my mind of anything that's gone on during the day. Been given a second chance. Don't want to stuff it up this time. Recognising stress and reducing stress levels is crucial in terms of your physical well-being.
Stories like Jerry's really ram home how important it is to not sweat the small stuff and focus on the things and people you love and to find ways to decompress.
Australia and the world was shocked to lose Shane Warne to a heart attack at just 52 years of age. It was a big wake-up call for men, especially Joe. And I know you met Warnie, and I had the great privilege of spending some time and some nights out. He was just a unique and incredible person, so generous and such an expansive group of people that he connected with, whether it was, some of the biggest rock stars in the world or his mates that he grew up with. It was just a really special person in all our lives. So around our age group, that really has hit a lot of us really hard.
Yeah, absolutely. All of the men in my life, pretty much, apart from my father-in-law, all the dear people to me, they are in their 50s. Yeah. And you sort of look at them and you think, how could that be? Because Warnie was such a big, larger-than-life figure. And so, yeah, you worry about the men in your own life. Part of the legacy Warnie left behind is that GPs are now reporting a big upsurge in men going for health checks, particularly regarding their hearts, which is so great. Yeah,
our bid to help everyone de-stress and keep anxiety at bay continues as we meet a mindfulness expert right after this on the House of Wellness. Today we're tackling stress head-on, Joe, and you and I talk a lot about mindfulness and meditation, and what that means to me is living in the present moment, focusing on the positives in life and trying to be truly grateful for the many things that I've got to be grateful for.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember the moment where I understood that I can choose where I put my attention. So you can get caught up in all these things that are going on. You think you're powerless, but actually I can choose to put my attention on the sunshine or on my dear friend next to me or the smells in the air or whatever it might be. It's a radical thing when you realise you have that power.
And, of course, setbacks and trying times hit us all from time to time and can make us all feel anxious. It's when those feelings don't go away and build up so much, they start to affect the quality of your life, that's when it becomes a real problem.
According to Beyond Blue, 1 in 4 Aussies will experience anxiety at some stage in their life. What's important is recognising the warning signs and knowing what to do about it.
So what is anxiety? It's a normal response to keep us safe. That burst of energy that kicks in when you need to get out of the way of danger is anxiety. And when your heart starts beating faster and the butterflies let loose in your gut before speaking to a room full of people, well, that's anxiety too. It can motivate you at times when you really need to get through something challenging, or it can cause you to disengage completely. And that's when anxiety begins to take over. There's lots of signs, from sweating and tummy upsets, to excessive fear, rapid breathing, and not sleeping. But mainly, if anxiety is getting in the way and affecting your quality of life, then it's time to get help and tame the beast.
So what's the difference between stress and anxiety, and how do we keep both at bay, Joe? Well, here to give us some insight, welcome author and mindfulness expert, Professor Craig Hassard. Welcome, Craig. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Luke. It's great to be with you.
Craig, you've written an incredible 14 books on mindfulness as a way of coping with stress. Can you start by telling us the physical effects of stress and anxiety?
Well, look, it really depends on if it's being activated when we need it and when we don't need it. Like if you're trying to get away from a tiger or a shark, that stress response could be, if we're lucky, the difference between life and death. So it's actually a really useful response that might save our life in that situation. But unfortunately, we activate it when we don't need it. You know, angry at the traffic lights and worrying about deadlines. And so we're activating stress all the time when all the chemicals are pumping around, nowhere to go. And that produces a wear and tear on our system that is called allostatic load. But it's like getting a car and driving the car really hard all the time. We run out of fuel, the parts wear out faster and so on. We've just got lots of fancy names for it, but it's basically wears out the system much quicker and it accelerates ageing as well.
Before the break, we met Jerry, who suffered a heart attack in part due to stress. Can it cut short our life in other ways? Yes,
it can. So, and when we talk about stress and that response, it's also when we're angry and so on, that activates the same response. So if we've got high levels of anger or a lot of stress in our life, and I'm not talking about life challenges, because that can bring out the best in us, but I'm talking about the things that really make us worry and fret over, you know, day after day. That puts a wear and tear and it accelerates the progression of things like heart disease, and it puts impairs our immunity and resistance to illness. So there's lots of ways in which our health really takes a turn for the worse. The good news is, if you want the good news, that they're reversible effects, but that's the whole point.
Yeah, Professor, leave COVID aside, which has clearly caused a lot of stress. Are we in general having higher levels of stress these days?
Looking at figures over decades, the levels of stress that people report in their day-to-day life have gone up significantly, and we're getting more stressed over things that perhaps we wouldn't have gotten stressed about 1-2 generations ago. And mental health also has sort of been on the decline. And so there's a lot of ways in which modern life, with all its wonderful opportunities and everything else that it offers, is actually kind of creating this sort of level of stress, and disconnection with kind of sort of adds to it as well.
You know, you hear people say, I thrive under pressure. So can there be a certain amount of stress that is good for us?
Yeah, if somebody says I'm thriving under pressure, they probably haven't got that bad stress. It's when we feel like I'm crumbling under pressure. And we've got to distinguish between the pressure that's coming from there and the pressure we're generating for ourselves. And it can be a bit of both. But if somebody's thriving, being in a challenging situation can be very motivating. It can bring out the best in us. It could be like a football team, for example, that rises to a challenge. So that can actually be a very useful thing and quite motivating. It's the kind of when we're in a situation and we want to be out of it and we hate it and we're reacting to it and wishing we're somewhere else, which is kind of the opposite of being mindful. Then that can really cause quite a lot of problems.
So then what is the best way for dealing with ongoing stress and anxiety?
Look, I'll put it in a practical context, but for every one tiger we see, we've got probably another 100 up here. And so we've got to distinguish between the real ones and the imaginary ones. And if we come back to the present moment, you kind of realise, wait a sec, there are birds singing and there's sunlight coming through the trees and the body, you know, so you just come back to the present moment and experience that for what it is. And if we do that, we'll probably find the stress response switches itself off. You know, lying in bed in the middle of the night, and, I've got 1,000 problems. But all that's actually happening is the body's lying on a comfortable mattress under a warm doona with a head on a soft pillow. That's all that's actually happening. But in our mind, we're somewhere else. And so we have to, in a sense, bring our attention back to where we are. If we do that consistently, it has a very beneficial effect for our health.
I feel calm being around Craig.
I know.
I think
moment.
more of what you're doing works. Joe and I have been really passionate about this space for many, many years, and we really appreciate you coming in and sharing your great wisdom today. Thanks for your time.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
We already take our Keep Cup to the coffee shop, we bring our own bags to the supermarket. Now it's skincare's turn to have a glow up in the consciousness space. The new natural, ethical and sustainable Australian skincare range, Etch and Ethos, are leading the way. Made right here in Melbourne and Aussie owned, the complete range has 94% naturally derived ingredients. The wash is pH balanced and includes a plant-based glycerin, which helps hydrate the skin while cleansing. A blend of sunflower seed oil, carnauba wax and castor seed oil features in the lotion and protects the skin from dryness, providing 24 hours of moisturisation. The fragrances are all hypoallergenic, and this means they're nice and kind on the skin. As well as the goodness inside the bottle, the outside packaging is also making an impact. It's made from 50% recycled milk bottle plastic. That's up to 200,000 milk bottles that Etch and Ethos are looking to divert from Aussie landfill each year. I know so many of my beauty lovers are at home and applying our skincare with the same thought that I have. We don't want a guilty conscience. And that's why it's important to support a brand like Etch and Ethos who share the same core beliefs and values.
Jade Kay there with ethical, natural and sustainable skincare, which is forefront in many minds when it comes to purchasing brands. Origin and values are as important as the product itself.
And we've been talking about minds a lot already today, Joe, and as you know, my go for getting my head right is exactly that. It's the M word, which is meditation, and I feel lucky enough that's been in my life now for close to 25 years.
And your commitment, Das, is admirable. Do you still meditate every morning and at 5 a.m?
A little bit more sleep these days, Joe, post-breakfast radio, but I feel really lucky that that is still something I do twice a day, almost every day. But as you know, when you get so much benefit out of it, it's almost compulsory to keep doing something that works so well.
Well, you are a great example of that dedication, Das, and I love hearing you talk about your passion and your wisdom around it. It's awesome, and you've influenced a lot of people who are now fierce meditators, and your encouragement for others to give it a go has really yielded results, especially for a primary school in Adelaide South.
Big passion project of mine, this one, Joe, and looking into what makes a great leader as well and how you can have a positive impact on other people around you. And we really wanted to try and support as many kids to understand that as early. So we couldn't have been more excited when a teacher at Ordinga Primary, Sam Healy, came to our leadership conference and really got on board with the idea of trying to impart the meditation technique to teachers so that then they could meet kids where they're at.
Well, many of the kids at Sam's school are vulnerable and facing big life stresses. So Sam and his colleagues are using meditation and mindfulness to create a safe space and a revolution in the classroom.
We have 705 students here, which is very large for a primary school. We have kids here with autism, learning disabilities. Trauma is a big thing for us.
Yeah, we see kids in unsafe situations at home. We see kids who just from broken families, which again in our culture is not a uncommon thing. They're not coming in settled. They might be coming in so relieved to get to school after something's happened in the morning.
2 years ago, South Australian primary school teacher Sam Healy started meditating every morning before class. It didn't take him long to notice profound benefits for his well-being.
We all live such busy lives, and I honestly just enjoyed having that time just to sit and just be with myself for a little while. But it also gave me a bigger understanding around the intent of meditation in terms of the connection to self-awareness. When you feel comfortable, when you feel ready to, just close your eyes. Just really start listening to my voice, the tone of it.
As he found himself becoming less stressed and more focused, Sam decided to experiment with teaching the same techniques to his Year 3 and 4 students, alongside co-teacher Alicia Wren.
Wriggling out our hands, finding a nice, good fit spot for them to rest, maybe on your belly or down by your side.
I think the biggest thing was us sharing that we were on the same journey with them, so it wasn't that we had so much more knowledge than them, that we were all starting the journey together, and I think it just created this openness in the classroom that allowed them to share a lot more of their thoughts.
Taking a deep breath in now through the nose. Let it out.
At first, I didn't really think. I thought we were just sitting there doing nothing. And then about like a month later, I was like, wow, this is really calming.
When I'm stressed, I know to do the breathing. And I just feel different.
It helps me be calm around all my friends. If I'm in a situation, I know I can just go do it somewhere and I'll be calmer.
Being a teacher, you want to be in control naturally. So I remember thinking the more I spoke, the better it would be. But again, that reflection and the feedback with the kids is always an important part of teaching. So quickly, they ended up telling me they wanted less guidance. They wanted more time with themselves. And I remember that moment of, wow, this is actually working. Empty those lungs. Good.
As Sam and Alicia's students became more and more invested in their daily meditation, the school leadership team began to take notice.
I used to come and watch what was going on in there. I saw children in there who were less stressed. I saw engagement in learning, much less behaviour in that room, and that got us interested.
Sam was asked by the school to create a new training program for his fellow teachers. The goal was to help them discover the value of meditation so that they could go on to replicate Sam's success in the classroom.
What we found was, teachers quickly became able to meet demands really effortlessly. They started enjoying the work a little bit more. Not only is that obviously affecting that individual teacher, it's affecting the entire learning and well-being of the students in that classroom.
Maybe a sentence for each of those leaves, that would be really good. When you're a teacher, a lot of your life is about trying your best to meet other people's needs. But what Sam has taught us is that we need to prioritise ourselves as well.
We've chosen this career because it's an exciting career with all of these demands in it. And so instead of getting into that state of getting stressed about report writing time or interviews or anything like that, because of our meditation, we were able to do that with energy and with a sense of calm and things like that.
Okay, so this is a thinking technique that helps us step away from thoughts that might come from negativity and it's affecting your thought process.
By June this year, 21 teachers at Aldinga Primary were guiding their students in daily meditation and mindfulness sessions.
We have found that they are far more focused, they are calmer, more in touch with types of emotions and being able to recognise their emotions, and within recognising emotions we're able to talk to them about their emotions without feeling the fear of being judged, without feeling like self-conscious about talking to us.
So I was in a forest, a rainforest, and there was a waterfall, and it would change colours whenever I felt a different emotion.
Wow. Our focus at the moment, after we've done our breathing techniques, is to go to our happy place. So I'm having kids who are in their meditation, they're seeing pets that have passed away, and they're talking about things like, I felt so happy, but I also felt sad. So they're deep conversations to have with kids, and I find that having discussions around those things is helping them to understand how they feel about lots of things, and the meditation's a really powerful part of that.
I felt happy because when I saw that I was bleeding, I told you first, and it made me feel happy because it made me feel like I was helping my body.
So you had a problem and you fixed it yourself and it made you feel really happy. The intention is to listen to what everyone's experiencing and understand that everyone's feeling something different, and the way that every single person is feeling is the right way to feel, because a lot of children grow up thinking that they're the only person that is feeling a particular way and that that's wrong. And so it's really important to understand that the way that every child is feeling is exactly how they should be feeling, and to understand that we're all feeling different things, and that develops empathy and compassion and even listening skills, which at this stage is huge.
When my brother annoys me, I go to my bedroom and I do some deep breaths.
I think it helps our school by being calmer, not so angry. I've just seen less bullying. People are nicer to each other.
Yeah, more kids in Australia should do it.
All right, everyone, get ready for some meditation.
All those students know the skills necessary to meditate, and now they have it for life if they ever need it. So that was our big takeaway, that we can teach these skills as long as we do it with authenticity, as long as we do it with honesty and experience, then yeah, the kids are gonna feed off that and be inspired by that.
So, Joe, it's great to be able to give you an update on where we're at with that. And Sam Healy has done such an amazing job. He's a brilliant teacher at Ordinga, but we've been able to find a funding partner, and we're looking forward to making that announcement to take Sam and hopefully scale that around to as many schools as possible around Australia so that we can teach, hopefully, thousands and thousands of teachers, and that in turn will influence hundreds of thousands of kids. So we're genuinely excited about what Sam's been able to create, and hopefully we can support him going forward for many years to come.
Oh, congratulations on that, Darcy. It is such a massive achievement, and honestly, anything that can help, and you are impacting thousands of kids, so that's wonderful. Anything that can help kids get through uncertain times and life, we wholeheartedly embrace and support. Up next, Hinesy and Sarah join forces to keep colds and flu at bay.
Plus, we meet the girls who are putting pedals to the metal in a bid to become our next Formula One stars. That's right after this.
Sore throat, headache, runny nose, cough, fatigue, restless nights.
You must be talking about the common cold and flu, Luke. Although you're not having those symptoms right now.
No, Sarah, I can assure you I am healthy and well. And that is because I know the nutrients to keep my immune system thriving.
You going to share those at all, or...?
You know me, I like to keep people on the edge of their seat when I'm telling a story. But we have our friends in the Ayurvedic world to thank for the plant Andrographis. Now, it's native to South Asian countries. The leaves and stems help reduce the severity of symptoms in mild upper respiratory tract infection.
Other immune-supporting ingredients include zinc and vitamin C. These antioxidants can help really reduce the damage that free radicals do to our cells, which is what we see as illness. They're really key in helping support a healthy immune system function.
And thankfully, we can turn to supplementation for these nutrients and to reduce the duration and symptoms of the common cold and flu.
Oh, no, you don't.
Oh, hang on, I had a crusket for lunch. A crusket may as well be called a dusted. It's so dusty, it's a crusket.
Hard no from me.
The A to Z of Vitamins is brought to you by Bioceuticals Armour Force, a comprehensive formulation to relieve symptoms of cold and flu. Found exclusively behind the counter. Speak to your healthcare professional for specially formulated immune support.
Hinesy and Sarah with some great advice on how to protect yourself as we head into cold and flu season, which we all want to do, as these days sneezing in public pretty much makes you feel like a criminal.
And I've heard my kids talk about if you cough in class now, you almost feel like everyone's looking at you that you've, started some sort of life-threatening issue. It's an amazing space that we've head to. And from stifling a cough in public to showing courtesy and skills on the road, Joe, how would you describe the Joe Stanley behind the wheel? Now, this interests me. Are you a bit of a lead foot? How do you go?
I am a very, very well-behaved, courteous driver. I never speed, never.
Horn?
Never on the horn. No,
Really?
I'm a very... I practice mindfulness. So I'm just like, off you go, it doesn't matter. I'm just in my own world.
Really?
I do enjoy a little bit of a speed when it's appropriate. I did the Celebrity Grand Prix a couple of times. That was pretty awesome. Did you do it?
I did. I had an amazing experience until I crashed and ended up on the roof. But anyway.
Okay, right. Well, when the Grand Prix is in town, you know what it's like when you really see speed. After a 2-year absence, I did enjoy the sounds of the fumes and all the excitement that went with it on and off the track.
Record crowds too, Joe. It was brilliant to see an amazing turnout. It's been a long time since we've had big crowds in Melbourne. I know there's a huge interest. We've spoken about this on the back of the Netflix series Drive to Survive, which has been a big boost to that sport. And as far as the drivers go, we know it's really a male-dominated sport. So this year, the Aussie Formula One organisers have implemented a new program to get more females behind the wheel.
It's called the Girls on Track program, where one of Australia's brightest young drivers will mentor other girls who are keen to get into the male-dominated sport. I love this, as you would imagine, Das. So we went trackside to meet the new generation of females who'll be first past the checkered flag.
This is where all the big names in motorsport start, in a go-kart. And it's where this eager bunch of young females are whetting their appetites for speed and science.
Well, good morning, girls. We are so excited to have you all here to introduce you to the motorsport world this morning.
Who better to set the tone for the latest Girls on Track program than the CFO of Motorsport Australia, Charlotte Hayes.
So I was born into a motorsport family and I went to my first British Grand Prix when I was just 6 weeks old. Oh, it's absolutely a huge passion for me seeing girls get involved in motorsport. It's something that I've certainly been passionate about my entire life. So our mission is to inspire you as the next generation of young girls considering a career in STEM, and to give you the confidence in what you can achieve. You know, at the moment, the sport is very male-dominated, and that's something certainly that we're desperately trying to change and show girls that just because they're entering something that is male-dominated, that shouldn't preclude them in any way from having a successful career. Really making sure that we're widening the pool of girls that are coming through that have an interest. Some will end up as drivers, some will end up as accountants, some will end up in media. And that's what this program is here to show, that you don't necessarily have to be a driver or an engineer to be involved in motorsport.
3, 2, 1, box, box, box!
Girls on Track is designed to expose girls to an industry and a host of opportunities that were once out of reach.
Well done, well done. Does anyone know what engineering is? Does anyone have an idea what an engineer does?
And to meet some inspirational young women, like Emmy Drew, who chose a career pathway that still mainly attracts the boys.
And what engineers do is we not only build things, but we also design them. It started when I was 12 years old. My dad took me to my first Grand Prix. I decided I want to be a ballerina as well as an F1 driver. Yeah, neither of those really worked out, but that's okay. And then when it came to choosing a degree at university, I decided engineering was the way to go, and with the motorsport really pushing that passion, I guess. Yeah, why do you reckon we have this rubber band that attaches those wheels?
That connects them.
Yeah.
So that one turns as well?
Yeah, exactly. So I didn't have experiences like this when I was their age. That some, you know, programs like this didn't exist, sadly. So it was definitely a fight for me to kind of get to where I am, and definitely being the only girl in certain classes, a lot of STEM classes, was the only girl in, you know, my systems engineering class and physics class even. So to be able to engage the girls and trigger that passion early on so that they have buddies with them, you know, when they get to that stage where they're choosing VCE and university subjects and degrees, they won't be the only ones, and that'll give them a lot of confidence, I think, to pursue their passions. Yeah, so can you see the little lights down here, the little eyes? So it's sort of like a sensor, a light sensor, right? So it's going to sense how far it can go. And once it hits something solid, it's going to stop.
A lot of the mechanics, that actually sounds really interesting to me, because it's usually known as like a guy kind of thing. It's not really a known thing for girls to do, but yeah, it's really good to see that all those girls were there and they were having fun and they were really getting into it.
So to go in this corner, stay out wide.
Overall, I think it was a really fun and exciting experience. We got to learn a lot of new things in the STEM field, and I think really good to see all these women really passionate for what they're about. It's kind of sparked a passion within me as well, being able to see, wow, that's actually a career I could choose to go to.
Okay, girls, how are we going with our owl vomit? Is it fully sick?
Mark Robinson is a big fan of STEM and has been using the Girls on Track program to promote science in the classroom.
Being one of our science teachers, and I also teach research science, I really wanted to see more female participation in those subjects, particularly through into our VCE levels, which we've seen as a school, which has been fantastic and is a direct result of the program and our involvement in it.
So that's your best friend. If you ever feel like you're out of control or you're going too fast, just hit that and then it's all good to go.
So if you guys, when you get a bit older, you might start building robots and programming them to sort of walk around, walk in a square and things like that, or in a circle. It's so important to get girls involved in STEM because there is a lack of women and girls in that area. And I feel like we just add so much more to the environment. We really balance it out. We bring new skills to the industry, and I think regardless of whether, you know, we might be the only female in the room, we really just need to push for it and come together in events like this and encourage each other in order to create that sort of change, yeah.
Arms up in the air, say girls on track!
Alzheimer's disease affects up to 70% of people with dementia and is the most common form of dementia. Whilst the underlying cause is unknown, the biggest risk factor is the inevitable ageing process. Alzheimer's disease damages the brain due to a plaque buildup of the toxic protein amyloid. This affects brain function, resulting in impaired memory, thinking, and behaviour. In early stages, the symptoms can be subtle. The first sign is often unusual memory loss, such as forgetting how to do regular tasks completed frequently, or forgetting well-known people and places. You should always consult your doctor if you're concerned about symptoms. Like many areas of our health, regular physical activity, following a Mediterranean-like diet, and being mentally active may assist in the slowdown and progression of Alzheimer's disease. A recent study following patients with an early stage of Alzheimer's disease called mild cognitive impairment revealed that the medical nutrition drink Suvanade slowed the progression of memory and cognitive decline by 60% and also reduced the loss of everyday task performance by 45% when taken daily over 3 years. The findings of this study were possible thanks to 20 years of research. Early diagnosis is key to ensuring that Alzheimer's is more of an unwelcome companion rather than the driver of your life.
Now, Joe, you and I aren't quite there yet, but the big 5-0 is heading our way. Now, tell me, are you someone that's going to throw a big bash for the milestone birthday, or are you someone who likes to fly under the radar?
Well, I am turning the big 5-0 this year, Das, and I'm going all out.
I love it.
Stand by. Yes, I'm having a big bash. I'm having a holiday. I'm having a girls' lunch. I'm having a night at the theatre.
Brilliant. I love
yes,
it.
You might get a Guernsey. I don't know. I haven't decided
I'm going
on
to
the
come
final
whether you
list
like
yet.
it or not, Joe. I promise you I'm going to be there. But I'm someone that likes to just fly a little bit under the radar.
Do you?
Beck forced me to have a 30th against my... And I loved it. Could not have had a better night. So
Well, there
maybe
you
I
go.
could be talked into it.
Yeah, well, getting older is a great excuse for a party, I think, because it's a true privilege and something to celebrate that you get to get older. But it's obviously about more than just presents, friends and champagne, is it? I don't know. As I tick off yet another year on the calendar, I have to say I think about maintaining my health. It's the single most important thing I'm conscious of looking after as I get older.
Yeah, I feel the same, Joe, and that means staying on top of what health checks are needed at different ages. Lots of them are offered by the government for free. And here to be our walking, talking calendar medical alert, it's the Good Doctor's Car.
Hi and welcome to Medicine Past, Present and Future. My name's Dr Nick and I'm the past.
And my name's Dr Isabel and I'm the future.
And together, we're the present.
Now, Dr Nick, you've got a big birthday coming up this year.
Have I?
Well, do you at least know what this birthday entitles you to?
Well, I've already got my seniors card.
Yeah, no, not that. It's to a government-subsidised influenza vaccine.
Oh, yay! But you raise a good point, Dr Isabel, because we doctors, particularly GPs, we often talk about these things called milestone birthdays, when you turn 20 or 50 or 70, as being particularly important.
Yeah, that's right. And for your 50th birthday, you might even receive something in the mail from the government.
Well, let's wind back and do this in chronological order, shall we? So let's say you're in your 20s. Hopefully you've got your own Medicare card, you've got your own GP. Now, what are the sort of health checks that someone in their 20s should be looking for?
So for people with a cervix, age 25 is when we start our national cervical screening program. And if you're low risk, you only have to do it every 5 years.
Now, this is a big change, isn't it? Because it used to be every 2 years.
So it's much more straightforward now. Other things to look for in your 20s and 30s, STI screening and contraception discussion if you're sexually active, blood pressure checks for pretty much everyone, and anyone who's thinking of having a baby, preconception counselling.
So it's really important, even if you're a healthy 20-year-old, you still need regular health checks.
So, Dr Nick, let's just say I've gotten through my 20s and my 30s and I've turned 45 and I turn up at your clinic and I want a general checkup. What does that entail?
Well, it's not going to be done in one consultation because I'm going to ask a lot of questions, I'm going to do an examination, and I'm going to order some tests. And at the very least, I want to know what your blood pressure, your cholesterol, and your sugar are. And then, depending on your family history, your own past history, I might want to do skin checking, prostate checking. There's a whole lot more that we might need to do. But Dr. Isbell, why don't you tell us what that 50th birthday present is from the government?
Yes. So this is the National Bowel Cancer Screening Program. Now, bowel cancer often starts as small polyps, which can be really easily treated, but the problem is they're mostly asymptomatic. There are no symptoms. The test itself, it looks for tiny particles of blood in your poo, which can lead to an earlier diagnosis and therefore earlier treatment.
But only about 40% of the Australian population who get the kit actually use it. So if you've got one sitting on the shelf at home, make sure you get it down and do it.
And for women in their 50s, it's time to start thinking about mammograms if you haven't already, as well as things like bone health for everybody else. Now, Dr. Nick, why don't we talk about your birthday present, vaccines?
Yes, once you turn 65, you get a free government flu vaccine. And at the age of 70, you get a vaccine for the shingles and pneumococcal, and they're also free.
Now, of course, there are many other reasons to see your GP, and importantly, mental health issues can occur at any age and any stage.
Which is true, Dr. Isbell, but you talked about sexual health as if it stopped when you were 30.
Yeah,
It does go on after you're 30, you know.
I think we'll just leave it there for today, Dr. Nick.
All right, Dr. Isbell, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
A major new report on the health effects of e-cigarettes has found that vaping is particularly harmful for non-smokers and young people. It's a bit alarming that 1 in 5 people aged between 18 and 24 have tried it.
Yeah, the research was done by the Australian National University and is the most comprehensive look at vaping to date. It's highlighted the rise in e-cigarettes amongst young people especially, and now they are real concerns of a generation of users addicted to vaping. That's evolving as we speak.
Well, the old argument that it can help smokers give up the darts has been pretty much put to bed, I think. And the report found young people who vape are 3 times more likely to start smoking. So I definitely notice way more people using vapes when we're out and about. But how do you know what's in the vaping products?
Yeah, if you're giving up smoking, well done and keep going, but it's a huge achievement, stand alone. But if you're thinking about starting and including vaping, well, the research is saying that is a really, really bad idea all round. So give that a miss as well. That's our show for today, Joe. Thanks for tuning in.
You can also tune in to me and Gerald Quigley on the House of Wellness radio show every Sunday.
And when you're online, check out the House of Wellness website. Thanks as always to our great friends at Chemist Warehouse. We'll see you next time.